Through 8 weeks of the UPA season, the Philadelphia Aegislash had little to worry about in the race to the playoffs. They had a winning record, a well-balanced roster in terms of typing, and a head coach who's rarely completely satisfied with the previous week's performance. But since then, they've lost 3 straight games, many in outrageous fashion. The 2 teams they play to end the season are only a game behind them in the standings, and they'll be hungry. The Aegislash know they can't relax until they clinch a berth in the postseason, and their head coach understands that the most.
I definitely think it's important that this team gets a win because that's really all that matters in this league. I mean, you can pull off as many fancy sets as you want, any kind of things that people are going to be talking about in the future, but if you don't win, then what's the point of any of it?
Opposing the Aegislash this week are the Barcelona Bagons, a team that's been hovering around 500 all season, but a devastating loss to a 3-win opponent last week means that they'll have to win out to punch their ticket. And with 8 teams in the conference fighting for 5 remaining playoff spots, the odds are even. Neither team can afford to let down at this point in the year. It's a showdown of 2 U-turn conference foes. The Barcelona Bagons take on the Philadelphia Aegislash on NPI's Monday Night Pokemon.
What is going on, everyone? My name is No Pun Intended, and welcome to coverage of Week 14 of the UPA. If you guys enjoy this kind of draft league content, please make sure to leave a like or a comment on the video. I would very much appreciate it. But that intro covered a lot of what I wanted to say for this battle. One thing it did not cover was the fact that after I received a forfeit win on Week 12, I got another forfeit win for Week 13. So we jump up from 5-6 to 7-6 without having to play any games, and that's really nice. Albeit it makes me feel like I kind of don't deserve to have a winning record. However, today we have a chance to get a legitimate win, which would certainly solve that problem. But speaking of today, we're taking on Ice Demon Gray, coach of the Barcelona Bagons, for our Week 14 match. And yes, I have left his channel link in the description, so you should go check it out if you have the time. And I would say that his team is good, but you pretty much hear me say that about every team I faced off against. And I've mentioned multiple times this season that my team is not particularly fair against heavily offensive mons or heavily defensive mons. If there's like separate defined roles for each mon, but they're very, very good at that one defined role. Well, say hello to Mega Charizard X, Azelf, Mienshao, Umbreon, and Gligar. And you can see his team right now. Those are 5 of the 6 mons he brought. So yeah, overall a good squad. Don't know what his switch in is for a Specs Primarina, but I didn't bring it, so who cares? Although technically speaking, this is the first time I haven't brought Primarina to a game since I traded for it. But yeah, let's just get into my team, and I'm not particularly proud of the squad I brought this week. Some of the stats just are really weird in hindsight. As the first example of that, we have a Z Sunnyday Victini, whose specialty is getting completely walled by Umbreon and Charizard X. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking with this one. I guess I wanted the speed boost, but it's not worth talking about anymore. We got Nasty Plot Decidueye. I guess the idea is that if I Nasty Plot, I can get around Umbreon, which is his best specially defensive wall, and then I can hit him with Grass Ghost coverage. See, these sets make a lot more sense when you have to deal with 12 mons as opposed to the 6 that I actually went against. For the first time all season, I'm bringing Cobalion as my win condition. It's going Dual Dance, Dual Stab. I want it to win the game, so I'm going to have to clear out anything that it can't kill. And Chople Berry is there to take a high jump kick from Mienshao. In hindsight, probably should have chosen a better berry than Chople, maybe to take a Flare Blitz from Charizard X or a Ground Move from the Gligar, but I was juggling a bunch of these berries in my head, so yeah. Zapdos is a defensive phaser, first time bringing Whirlwind, and the idea is to get up rocks with my Crocodile and T-Spikes with my Weezing. We'll talk about those more in depth later on, and then I'll be able to force switch out his mons so they'll get poisoned and then take residual damage. Thunderbolt's the main stab, and HP Ice is my specific countermeasure for Gligar, hoping that it works. We have a Scarfed Stealth Rock setting Crocodile, and honestly this set I've grown pretty high on over the course of the season. Even though I picked up Cobalion to ease some of the pressure off of my Crocodile and my Regirock to set up Stealth Rocks, I find that just sticking rocks as the 4th move on a Scarf set is actually really, really effective, because people either don't expect a Scarf Crocodile to have rocks, or a Rock Crocodile to be Scarfed. But the Choice Scarf is on Crocodile, so it can outspeed Azelf, Mienshao, Manaphy, and Zardex. And then Weezing is here mainly to get at the T-Spikes and generally be annoying by pain splitting on things with high HP. I have Memento in case Zardex or Manaphy or something else sets up to a point where I'm not comfortable with any of my team surviving. But that's going to do it for my Week 14 squad. And I'm just going to get into the game because it's way more interesting than the team matchup. But my lead is going to be my Victini because I don't feel as though it's very valuable and I don't mind sacking it. Meanwhile, Ice leads off with his Azelf, and this is when I realized it's probably a suicide lead, but I don't really have anything better to do than to just click the Z Sunny Day and just go straight for a Blue Flare, because in the sun, Blue Flare will still do a lot to anything he could potentially switch in. He's going to set up the rocks instead. I do get the +1 speed, which means I can outrun his elf, and now on turn 2, a little interesting thing is going to happen. I'm going to go for the Blue Flare. He's sashed, however he gets burned as he goes for the explosion, and because I got the burn, I'm able to survive with 60% HP, so Victini is tanking that attack, no problem. And it also means that I don't die when I switch back into rocks. Now, he thought that burn mattered quite a bit, but in my mind, I was going to sack Victini anyway, regardless of what HP he was at, because looking at the squad he has and looking at my moveset, I can't touch this Umbreon very much, and I can't touch the Zardex either, so to me, Victini's pretty much dead. It's sort of an aborted set that I shouldn't have brought in hindsight, but I had it in this game, so I just had to work with it for as long as I had it. Because you're going to see the Umbreon takes 46% from the Blue Flare, even with the sun up, which means that he can just Wish Stall me out. I do manage to get a burn, but this is more of a mixed result for me. On the one hand, it's good to get the residual damage, as well as reduce the amount of damage that Foul Play will do to me. But you're going to see a bit later on, but I'd rather get a poison status on him, so I can't really do that now. But looking at this situation, I realize it's a pretty good time to go into my Weezing and set up Attack Spikes. Now, they're not going to be terribly effective because the only two monsters that are going to be hit by them at this point are the Manaphy and the Mienshao. But I guess the idea is that if he was going to go for Heal Bell to try to get the burn off and deal more damage, I could potentially do something. And I didn't really think there was another great opportunity for me to get up the T-Spikes, because I didn't know what kind of sets he was running on any of his offensive pawns. I do end up revealing the Rocky Helmet on my Weezing, but it's not that big of a deal. The big point of this turn is that I'm able to get up Attack Spikes. But Ice is going to switch in directly to the Manaphy, and I realize at this point that I do not want Manaphy setting up whatsoever. Now, I have Memento, and I decide that I can't really allow Manaphy to get up the boost, and there's no other way I can prevent it besides going for Memento. Now, I had Haze for Weezing on an earlier draft of this team, specifically for the potential for Z Rain Dance Manaphy, and I have decided to replace it with Pain Split because of one of the recoveries. So that ended up being a bad decision on my end, because I could have canceled out the speed boost and he would have had no chance to get it back since he burned his Z move. Instead, I have to sack my Weezing in order to mitigate the Manaphy, which I'd rather not do, but to be honest, it was pretty passive anyway, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It also gives me an opportunity to go into Decidueye and just set up a Nasty Plot, because with -2 special attack, Manaphy can't touch me at all. But instead, he's going to pull a hard switch into Charizard X on the Nasty Plot, and right now, I have to kind of make a gut check decision, and I elect to stay in with Decidueye. And the reason is that I just need Charizard to take some damage. If he goes for Flare Bloods, he will take Recoil, and that will fulfill my condition. And any other move that he could potentially go for with a Charizard will not KO my Decidueye, even a Fire Punch, because the rain is up. And he inadvertently weakened his own Fire-type attack, which means that Decidueye can't live. Case in point, he goes straight for Dragon Claw. I survive on 12%. I'm able to get off a Shadow Ball, deal 90% damage to the Charizard, and from there, I can easily revenge kill him later on. Granted, the only mon I have to outspeed him at this point is my Cobalion, and considering it's my win condition, that's not the most optimal play, but I don't really have another choice. But right here, I make a pretty bad misplay. Well, maybe it's a misplay, I'm not sure. It depends on how the battle had gone in the future. See, I go for close combat here instead of Iron Head, and I'm not sure why I didn't just calculate Iron Head, because it does about 15 to 18% to his Zard X, which means it would have taken it out, and I wouldn't have had to take a defense or special defense drop. And the reason that's so important is that he is going to go into the Mienshao right here. And I have Chople Berry. I can normally tank a high jump kick because Cobalion has some nice physical defense. Unfortunately, because I took the defense drop from the close combat, it means that an HJK is now a rule to kill, and I can't have Cobalion die like this. However, considering that Cobalion was my win condition, I might have elected just to switch out here anyway. I'm not really sure what I would have planned, but based on the way I click close combat, now I no longer have the option to stay in with Cobalion, so I have to switch out here. And I'm gonna go sack the Victini right now as a result. Now, the fact that he's probably Scarf means I don't have to worry about Zapdos taking a Stone Edge just yet, but Ice also has an Umbreon, and Umbreon is one of the best switch-ins to special attacks in the metagame. And I don't particularly like that, so I'm just going to click Whirlwind to force the Umbreon out as he sets up the Wish. He gets sent into Mean Shao and goes for the U-turn, and kind of thinking about it, I probably should have just Whirlwinded again, but at the same time, the Wish was up, and whatever I would have sent it into would have gotten the HP back, and thus the poison damage wouldn't have mattered as much as it might have if Umbreon wasn't a Wish passive. But now the Gligar is in, and I'm really, really happy I put HP Ice over Air Cutter on Zapdos this week, because that means I actually have a chance of killing off this Gligar. Well, not quite yet, I still have to take off the Eviolite, but doing 66% in exchange for Zapdos being toxic is a trade that I will take any day of the week. This Gligar is a huge problem for me to deal with, because my last two Mons, my Crocodile and my Cobalion, can't even touch it. Now, I'm kind of hoping he doesn't realize that, which is why I clicked Hidden Power Ice again, but he's just going to switch into the Umbreon, which takes almost nothing from it. And I really want to emphasize that at this point in the battle, Ice and I are really taking a lot of time to think out our plays and try to jostle for momentum in this game. And of course, as I say that, I'm going to make a very bad play because I kind of rushed through my thinking here. See, because Cobalion is such a natural switch into Umbreon, I thought I could bring it in no problem here and try to set up on his team. Unfortunately, I completely forget about the fact that he's very likely to go for Wish here because his health is so low, and while Umbreon can't take a hit from Cobalion, I realize that now he can just pass the Wish into Gligar, and I have no way to kill it. Now, I am going to try to salvage the situation and go into Crocodile so I can remove Gligar's Eviolite, but the fact remains that this play set me back about 5 or 6 turns, and I still can't believe that I did it. Now, I could have gone for knockoff here easily with Crocodile to get some damage off, but because I felt as though he was almost certainly going to go for Roost, I'm going to pull a hard switch into my Zapdos so that I can restore my own HP as well. Granted, Zapdos is in pretty bad shape because it's being worn down by Toxic and it has to switch on to Stealth Rocks every time it comes in, but I want to give it at least a puncher's chance of being able to hit Gligar with Hidden Power Ice. But now, as he sets up the Wish from Umbreon, I'm going to switch into my Crocodile, and there's one main reason that I make this play. So I can set up rocks on his incoming Gligar switch-in. That's one of the few good things that comes out of playing against such a passive wall fork. Now I can deal a little bit of residual damage to both Gligar and Umbreon whenever they switch in. I'm actually starting to develop an appreciation for Scarfed Rocks Crocodile, and I feel there's a lot of potential for that set to continue to work if I ever draft Crocodile in a future season. It seems as though everyone really wants to switch out of Crocodile when they see me bring it in, and that plays into my hands because I don't have to worry too badly about being choice locked into Stealth Rocks. But from here, I'm going to go into my Zapdos. He makes a nice double into Umbreon, knowing that Umbreon isn't necessarily important to him if I'm keeping my Cobalion safe and I want it to potentially sweep in the endgame. I can get off a Roost, but he's going to go for the Wish, and I realize that I'm going to be stuck in this position. He's going to Toxic Stall me to death, so I'm going to pull a hard switch into Crocodile to try to bluff Knockoff. And then at this point, with the Wish having been received, I'm going to double back into my Zapdos as he brings in the Gligar. And basically my idea behind this is to force the Gligar to take Rocks damage and not give him a chance to recover his HP. So as the Umbreon comes back in on the switch, I'm going to go for the Whirlwind, and I bring Gligar in again, forcing it to take another round of Rocks damage. And now I'm at a bit of a crossroads, and I have to kind of predict something to happen here. I can either go for Whirlwind again if he switches out of Gligar and potentially bring it in again to take 12% more damage from Rocks, or I can predict him to stay in and try to Roost, go for Hidden Power Ice, and just kill Gligar. Because if I can get Gligar out of the game, then he has to switch Umbreon into my Zapdos, and from there, I can bring in the Cobalion and safely set up. Ultimately, I decide to predict him to stay in with Gligar right here, but I'm not so fortunate as he just is able to go into the Umbreon. It absolutely chews the Hidden Power, and at this point my Zapdos is at a very, very low range of HP, so I decide that I need to play aggressively to force the issue against him. So I'm going to stay and go for Hidden Power Ice, predicting Gligar to come in. And on this turn here, he's actually going to go for the Foul Play, and that is bad because it puts my Zapdos in range where Toxic takes it out. So at this point, I have no choice. I have to go for the win here. So I go into my Cobalion. He pivots into the Gligar as I set up the Swords Dance. Now, the roll on my Iron Head means that I need to be at +4 for it to OHKO. However, if I try to set up to +4, he's going to Earthquake me, and I'm guessing the Mean Shao is Scarf, so it'll be able to outspeed And while Cobalion can take a high jump kick after eating the Chople Berry, it cannot take both a high jump kick from Mienshao and an Earthquake from Gligar. So the only way I can set up the +4 attack and +2 speed, which I need to sweep this game, is to hope that I can survive 2 Earthquakes from Gligar. But you see, the first one does 46%. And then the second one, well, I only have 45% health, so no surprise, I die. Now, this is where my overexcitement with Cobalion is going to come back and cost me. If I had swapped into Stealth Rocks one less time, then potentially I might have had just enough health to survive 2 Earthquakes. But that little 3% I take from switching into Stealth Rocks one too many times is the margin of error for me. I don't know whether I would have lived, but it certainly would have made the battle much more interesting than it ended up becoming. But Cobalion going down means that I have to go into my Crocodile now, and because the Gligar is still alive, I'm forced to lock myself into knockoff to have any chance of winning this game, which means I do far less damage. Fortunately, I do get lucky, and I get a double knockoff crit on the Manaphy, which means I get a differential point that I totally didn't deserve, but I'm not complaining about that. However, it does mean that he can just bring in the Mienshao, and this confirms that it is Scarf because it outspeeds my Scarf Crocodile, KOs with the U-turn, and that is going to be the game. Which means that we fall to league average. 7-7, 0 differential. At least nominally. However, due to the pair of forfeits that I received the past 2 weeks, as well as my general luck all season, I'm just going to take the time out to say that this UPA season was just a complete wash for me, and even though I'm still mathematically alive for playoffs, there are a bunch of teams ahead of me, and I don't necessarily feel as though that I deserve to make playoffs, and I'm really getting tired of the team that I'm using as well. I might go over that a bit more if I make a end-of-season recap video, but let's just say that I realized that my drafting, my free agent moves, my various decisions from week to week, it just didn't work, and I don't necessarily feel like validating them by continuing to play hard through the rest of my battles is necessarily worth it, considering I'm likely to get curb stomped like I have the past 4 times I've actually had to play someone in a battle. Maybe it's the last game of the regular season that it happens, maybe it's one of the playoff games, maybe it's even the championship game, but I can't assume I can win 4 straight games and take the championship with the team that I currently have. Somebody is going to have the matchup against me, as a lot of teams have had throughout the season, and I will eventually drop. So I just am not even going to care anymore. At least not until Season 8, if I choose to come back for that. But I do want to say, good game to Ice. You outplayed me, you outprepped me, and you outlasted me, and that's really all that matters. I wish you luck for your next game, because to my recollection, it's one that you need to win to make playoffs, so good luck with that. My team is garbage, and despite the fact that I drafted most of these mons before, I'm not comfortable using it in this new 7th generation landscape. But, gonna have to work with that, and hopefully draft better for next season. But I do want to thank you all for watching. Please make sure to leave a like or a comment if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Take care. Hey guys, just a quick little addendum to this video. So, my Week 15 opponent also forfeited their game against me, so we made it into playoffs somehow, despite the fact we haven't won an actual game since Week 8. I never like saying that I got lucky to be in this position, but I got lucky to be in this position. Let's see if we can take advantage. Anyway, see you guys next time.